So check this out. This is my first ever attempt at a pattern welded steel billet. For the record, I've been blacksmithing for 10 years now, and this is my first attempt. So a little bit of history on this thing. I prepped the billet from 2 layers of 1/4 inch thick, 2 inch wide 1095 that I bought from a steel supply store. And then the other 3 layers were cut out from a circular saw blade from a table saw, the carbide tooth type. So I have no idea what kind of steel that is. It might be 15N20, but as you can see here, it etched pretty well, and it's obviously very well forge welded, so it should be good to go. Anyhow, when I originally prepped that back in 2016, the only forge I had was coal forge, and not a really good one at that. And once I prepped the billet, prep meaning, all the pieces were cleaned and I MIG welded them together, I figured to myself, I'm like, you know what? I've got this billet that's, I think it was about 4.5 inches long at that time. I'm like, if I try to forge weld this, I'm going to be able to forge weld maybe at best the first 2 inches of it. And then the other 2 inches or 3 inches that's left over, well, by the time this is actually welded, scale and oxygen and everything would have gotten into this section and contaminated it, and it never would have forge welded, and I would have just scrapped the whole thing. So I never bothered. I just threw it to the side and worked on other things until I moved up to Wisconsin I moved up here in 2018, and then ultimately met members of a blacksmithing club, the Upper Midwest Blacksmith Association. And there's an individual in the club that lives fairly close to where I am at, and he's got 4 power hammers, 2 propane forges, and a coal forge and an induction forge. He's an old retired engineer, and he opens up his shop every Thursday. So I went over there, and I brought this billet over to his shop back in 2022, I'm pretty sure, and forged it out. I took several welding heats on it, and a propane forge. Went really well. I drew it out on a 25-pound little giant power hammer, and I think I stretched it out and then cut it 3 times and stacked it. So then that would be 15 layers, which is probably where we're at right now. And from there, I finished it off as basically what I started with this evening, like 1.25 inches wide. I think it was probably about 6 inches long and 5/8 thick, roughly. And at that point in time, I'm like, you know what? I don't have a power hammer at home. I don't feel like, bringing this thing back and dealing with it again and drawing it out and cutting, stacking, so on and so forth at somebody else's shop. I'd rather just, use my own resources to do that. And so I left it untouched because the idea of pounding out a pattern welded steel billet by hand is not attractive at all to me. I've got much better things I'd rather do in blacksmithing than that. So you guys may have seen my recent short that I finished a steel rolling mill, and holy buckets, that thing is a game changer. Just as I called it in that YouTube short. Again, this started as about 6 inches long. It's now 15. So I well more than doubled the length of it, and it was absolutely effortless. It would have actually gone faster if I used my propane forge, but I had other things to do this evening, so I only used my induction forge. And still, so I only, with the induction forge, I could only do about, 3 inches or so at a time to heat that up effectively and then roll it. And still, it just went so easy. I absolutely love that machine. It's a total game changer. So I rolled it out to a perfect thickness. It's maybe not perfectly thick now because I ground the scale off in order to see what the pattern looked like. So the thickness isn't perfect right now, but it certainly was. And I think what we're going to do from here is I think I'll take a few more heats and draw it out a bit thinner. I will use propane, and from there I'll cut it up into, maybe 4 sections and stack those on top of each other and forge weld it again. And so that would be like a 60-layer billet at that point. So it should be pretty interesting. I don't know how much further I would go than that because honestly, I kind of like the pattern as it is right now, so I don't want to get super fine. But yeah, stay tuned. We'll see how that goes. You guys are going to love the rolling mill. I recorded footage on my phone last night of forging out a railroad spike stake flipper, and that went exquisitely well. And yeah, I'm going to work on editing that and getting it posted, but this is a quick and simple video. I'm not going to edit this, I'm just going to send it. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys subscribe and enjoy the content, and I hope you learn something. Cheers.